Welcome to ThugCrowd Radio. Please listen to this important disclaimer in its entirety. All participants of this ThugCrowd Radio episode are characters. None of the stories told during these episodes are based on facts, truth, or reality. All works of fiction displayed during this episode that resemble real-life situations are coincidental and are not meant to serve as guides or tutorials to commit any crimes in any country. Please consult an attorney for local laws and regulations. And as always, trust your inner criminal.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
Yo.
Can y'all hear me?
Hello.
I think we're good. Cool. Awesome.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to ThugCrowd, episode 47, aka Just Chillin. Today we don't have a guest, but we are going to be just kind of chilling out, and you guys are open to ask us anything. Anything you ever wanted to ask us as people, individuals, etc. Opening it up, so should be interesting. I know a lot of you have been waiting to ask us a couple of weird things, so have at it. We'll be doing the news as regular, and then at 10:30 or Eastern, we'll be switching over to that mode. So yeah, but until then, how's everybody doing today?
Pretty good, man.
Hell yeah. Did anybody do anything cool this weekend?
Bayside's Melbourne.
Bayside's.
This weekend. Yeah. The highlight was probably drinking with Alfie.
No, that was cool, man.
Yeah, it was. I didn't make it to day 2 because the beer kept flowing until it didn't, and
Hell yeah. Anybody else do anything interesting? No.
I mean, I started a new job. I guess that's interesting.
Hell yeah, dude! Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
No, we're super stoked for you.
I am too, man.
Hell yeah. Also, the question from the chat, Roper, you can send us your questions here in the stream chat, or if you're in Discord in Voiceless Voice. But yeah, we'll shelve all of these things, all the questions that are asked. You can ask them still here, and I'll just collect them for when we start. So, 1 second here. Alrighty. So yeah, let's get into the news here. So here's the show notes. I've posted them again. Here's the show notes here. And all right, let's go. So the first story that we have on here is the FBI has arrested a second Apophis Squad member. This has come after the first person was arrested a couple of weeks ago or months ago now, in the UK, and now is just of how boisterous they were. And yeah, it happens. If you DDoS and you brag about it on Twitter, you're probably going to go to jail for it.
yeah, it's not being the best criminal. That's for sure. Like if you want to be an internet bad man, then that's not how you do it, guys. Like you might see other people doing it and seeing people getting arrested for it, and the reason they get arrested is because they suck.
Yeah, that's why so many of those booter services and stuff are getting shut down, is because they all brag about their shit and they slip up.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
No bank
OPSEC.
robber would ever go into a bank without a mask and wearing their fucking name badge, be like, "Hi, my name's Brad. I'm here to rob you."
Yeah. Customer service while robbing a bank. Let's go.
Yeah,
we definitely.
my
Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
my thing with that is like they were DDoSing Proton as they were Proton users, and they were still like connected from like Proton VPNs and connecting to their email accounts as they were attacking it. Like I understand that Proton encrypts all that stuff and they can't see much, but there's still a little bit of metadata that can be correlated.
Oh, absolutely.
No logs.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, for everybody who is a future DDoS attacker, don't, because it's just
Yes,
not worth
don't.
it. And if you are going to ever do any crimes, don't brag about it or taunt the people on Twitter, because that it's the same thing with everything else on Twitter. Like if you say my site is unhackable on Twitter, people are going to hack your site. If you say you are undoxable, untouchable, everything, you are going to get doxed and touched. It's just the thing.
I mean, take a lesson from like the hacker giraffe. Like he brags all about his stuff, and he got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's a matter of raising your profile, and if you're trying to do stuff, doing it on the low. I mean, I'm not trying to give criminal advice, but I guess it seems like common sense. I mean, a lot of the people who do this kind of thing are young and they want clout, and that's a way to get it in a way, but ultimately it's just going to end in you getting in a lot of trouble.
Arrest
And then,
immediately.
yeah, and then you'll be
Maybe
grounded.
not immediately, but
You'll be grounded, and you'll have no Xbox. So that's what will happen.
yeah, like you're gonna see like there's a correlation with these people are running these booter services. Like no real OPSEC professional is running these services. Like they're all
Absolutely.
kids getting into hacking and stuff.
Yeah.
And like another thing with that too is like everybody's like, oh, they hit that kid with 3 years in jail, blah 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 blah. But it wasn't just for DDoSing. This dude was making like bomb threats and stuff, and actually like really like causing terror.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the bomb threats on the schools and the planes and shit. Those are like serious things, and people think like doing things like swatting and calling in bomb threats and stuff like that are like a way to, I don't know. It's not even hacking. It's just literally being a terrorist.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like it's zero effort, and you know the only effort is disguising your prepubescent voice. That's pretty much it. Everything else is just literally anything
Obfuscation.
to do. And it's just being a dick, and it's going to get you arrested because people who are going to be tracking you down are 1,000 times smarter than you. So yeah. Just a PSA of the day here for anybody who is thinking about a life of cybercrime.
I think it's important to remember as well that like not really DDoSing as much so, but with the bomb threats and with swatting and stuff, you are hurting people, and you can potentially like there's been people who have died from being swatted, like we saw with Swatistic. Like that is it's legit real life danger. If you put somebody in real life danger, then you're going to be charged just as if you held a knife to them. You know what I mean?
As it should.
Yeah. And yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah. I'm just grabbing some questions here.
Take the $15 that you'd spend on a stressor and go get a pizza.
Just go learn to code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Udemy courses, they're cheap as hell.
I mean, you can download the PDFs. Yeah, it's cheaper than a pizza. You can get the pizza to eat while you read the PDF, and you get a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, our PSA of the day to budding cybercriminals. All right, so the next story that we have on here is the Slayer malware that disables the Mac OS gatekeeper to run unsigned payloads. So this thing seems to be out in the wild. I'm not an Apple user, so I'm not too familiar with it, but this seemed interesting though, because I know that Apple enforces code signing, but it's also difficult to do that at scale. And this goes through this. I'm not sure if you guys know about the user libexec security auth trampoline trick to escalate privileges, but this was the thing that was used here. I meant to watch this talk, but I did not.
So is this just like modifying the settings on Gatekeeper, or is this like?
It seems to be disabling it.
Yeah, it looks like it's totally bypassing it. I'm not so. up on the trampoline either, but I think one of the primary things is like you can sign apps to run on Mac already from with a developer license. You can go get one and just start signing your own apps. But obviously that would give you attribution, right? So I guess that's the main thing that it's really getting around here is any attribution of said malware, which is cool. I mean, I'm sure you could steal someone else's key, or as we've seen with Windows device driver signing, there's been attacks that have retrieved actual certificates to sign the drivers or stolen them from somewhere else as well. So I guess
Yeah, I've heard crazy stories. The Symantec one, it's like kept in a vault, and the vault is in a man trap, and man trap's got men with guns, and everything's time boxed, and full on security, and yet those certs still got out.
Yeah, that's the thing. At some point, they need to be used in a technical way. I guess I don't know. They need to be used in a technical capacity, and a dude with a gun, is he gonna like point it at the programmer who works there? Like,
Okay, so to answer Lucas Stream's question on why I rented a quantum computer, I didn't rent it. Anybody can go and sign up for this. It's cloud.dwavesys.com/leap, and you will get a minute a month of access to a quantum computer. So go do
it. Hell yeah.
Oh.
No, definitely. That I wanted to touch on that a little bit too. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Nux, while we're headed on the subject?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's very, very crazy stuff. So, like, it runs off of qubits. And it's like conventional computers is like 0 or 1, on or off. A qubit, like, it's in superposition, so like it could be on or off at the same time. It's in a vacuum chamber, and they use helium to cool it down to like pretty close to absolute zero. And when that happens, that causes quantum mechanics to take effect. So while if you go to measure it, the mere observation will change the outcome. So a lot of times within like the communications and stuff like this, you have to like guess its position so it doesn't mess up the actual like computations that you're doing and stuff like that. So it's one flow of electricity in the qubit is actually flowing counterclockwise and clockwise at the exact same time, and it is just one current of electricity. So like if you try to do like gaming or anything else on it, it's you're not going to notice anything being faster. It's literally like for crazy math computation.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely excited to play around with it. It's pretty dope.
Have you cracked any hashes with it?
I don't see. You got to realize they're still very, very low level right now, so you can't really do that kind of stuff. I think that you might be able to do stuff like with like MD5 or SHA1 stuff that's already broken. You might be able to just do that a lot faster.
Interesting.
How does like the interaction with it work? Like, can you like, is there like a console where you upload files to, or?
Okay, so it gives you an API key, and then you can pip install dwave-systems, and it's got an entire Python library for it. So there's.
Oh, okay.
Hold on one second.
API?
Yeah, well, I haven't really looked at it too much, but mainly it's that. Hold on one second, guys. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries.
It's puppy time.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, so we can go back a little bit too to the Parallax's question. It was saying, do you think it would be psychologically acceptable for end users to be required to have 2 local users, one privileged and one not, different names and secrets like enterprise admins do to bypass UAC attacks or to mitigate UAC bypass attacks like this? Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. But definitely having for any users that have sort of privilege levels, having separate accounts like an admin account, that you can use that has different levels of access is definitely in your best interest. It's just it is difficult to scale that sort of thing as well. So
Yeah.
And it pisses off your user.
There's also that solution called Red October, like the movie, where you need multi-sig private keys to do things you can implement. not specifically for UAC. And I think most UAC bypasses are probably going to be programmatic anyway. So you might have a separate user, but that's what code is for.
Yeah, I said it was kind of like just having sudoers in general. It's not gonna help as much, I think, because if the sudoer still gets compromised, it's still not good news. But
Yeah.
getting all that information interchangeably is still just another hurdle you have to get over.
Or you can just run everything as root like Kali and have it installed as your main OS, and you don't have to deal with any of that.
Easy
on
security.
Game on Windows 10 on the other partition, and don't full disk encrypt that.
Hell yeah. All right, yeah. Let's move on to the next story here. This one is hackers. We can get back to the quantum computer stuff later on in the show. But so the next story is hackers target Maltese bank for a 13 million euros cyber heist.
Yikes.
So yeah, this is another large bank heist, but online. Similar in a way to the one on the Bangladesh bank. And I mean, basically, people are studying the business logic of these sort of banks and just attacking them, very targeted, very direct, and that's just probably going to keep happening because it's something that is not easy, but it's definitely an easier vector than rolling up with guns and masks and
Yeah, absolutely.
So
then
was this through like their consumer consumer or business facing interfaces, or was this like on the back end?
it doesn't really go into the details, but it says it could be a classic business process compromise, but there's not really any details, and I think that they haven't fully released all the details about it yet because it's still like active. They're trying to any of the big transfers that were happening, they're trying to like reverse them, but it gets difficult when you have people who already have very sophisticated chains of moving money very quickly out of a bank like this. So I don't really know too much more of the details, but I just see this as a thing.
Yeah, I think business processes are always generally written without the technical implementations taken into account, I guess. And then the tech has to fall into the business and into what the business says. That's generally like what I've interacted with in the past with large organizations. Like something has to happen, make the computers do it, and it's not always not always the best way to do it, but the business people think it is. So you better do it. They pay the bills.
Absolutely, yeah, especially for big, large organizations like a bank. Changing anything involving process takes a lot of board meetings and reconfiguration.
Yeah, change management, change managers. I love change managers. They're my favorite people.
Oh yeah. The next one that we have on the list here is the photography site 500 Pixels resets 14.8 million passwords after data breach. This one is funny because, well, not funny. It's really bad if you use the site because anybody who has used it since July 5th of last year, or has used it before then, has had their stuff compromised. And so the company hasn't said which hashing algorithms were used beyond mentioning that any using the obsolete MD5 function were being reset. So that's pretty vague, but there was MD5 involved, and yeah, just
And
another
MD5, I think one thing that's like a lot of people love Hashcat. I love Hashcat. It does the job very well. But you can Google MD5s. Rainbow tables are obsolete.
The rainbow tables are great.
Yeah, right. Like and they're hosted for you. You don't need them anymore. Google them and check it out.
CrackStation, HashKiller, all those different big sites already have everything pre-computed. So it's very easy to just. They have APIs. I mean, we have an API for MD5 to look up an MD5 hash on our bot, and it's very easy. So anybody who's using MD5 for whatever reason, please stop.
Yeah.
And also Like, please, because anybody who ever gets into that, anybody who ever gets into your database will have all of your passwords. It's just
It's pretty much plain text at this point.
yeah.
You are looking for a cryptographic function to save passwords with Google bcrypt and have a look at the docs for that. And yeah, like a 10, 15 pass bcrypt will include the salt as well, so that even if you create the same password twice, they're not the same in the database. They're much harder to crack, and it's very easy to. If you can implement MD5, you can implement bcrypt. Go look at that.
Absolutely. But yeah, if you ever use this website though, go in and change your password. It's yeah. Oh yeah. So the next one, I was hoping that not Dan or RQU or Shell would be here, but they are not. The next story here is about Niantic hiring security engineers to combat hackers and data miners. So if you are interested in being a security-focused developer and somebody who wants to crack apps and APIs, this is a job you can definitely have. And so Niantic is the people who made Pokemon Go, as well as some other ARG games, and they are looking for people to reverse their stuff and try to hack it, because apparently that's not what they were doing beforehand, which is why a lot of people were able to do a lot of reverse engineering and hacking the API of Pokemon Go a couple of years ago when this first came out. But unfortunately, though, the people that I know who know more about this than I do are not here. Or does anybody here know anything about Pokemon Go?
Yeah, Pokemon Go. So there was a couple of different bots that were around for it very quickly after it came out. I mean, from memory, I recall someone saying that it was Protobuf. There was a few different ways to hack it. So if you ran the bot, you generally created a dummy account, and it even came up on a Google map, and it would show you where you've walked, the Pokemon you've catched, all that kind of stuff, until eventually you get banned. So that's pretty much how those bots went, and they were up quickly. They were maintained. There were waves of bans, and then the bots would be getting around them. Another way things that less sophisticated people were doing were running Android emulators and just using the spoof location feature in like I don't know, BlueStacks or whatever. Installing, on the rooted devices, just installing GPS locators. I did a little bit of stuff with GPS SDR to like move myself around to places where I could get better Pokemon. And then it got really boring really quickly. But there's what was that other game, Ingress, that a lot of people used to play as well? They also make Ingress.
Yes, they do. And Lord Parody here in the chat says that many Pokemon bots were spin-offs from the Ingress bots because it is the same API with some minor changes.
There you go. I guess that's why it was so quick. Yeah, I mean, once a bunch of the work is done, then you identify that's the same protocol.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting though, because I mean, I feel like with the size and the scale the Pokemon Go experience, like, or what that they had to experience for, the amount of people who actually would want to play it, especially that first couple weeks that it was out. There's definitely, I feel like it was way more than they probably expected, especially with random people just coming out and hitting it with everything they got to play with it.
Yeah.
There was actually one other interesting bug that I did see in this that was reported a while back and fixed, was that your item amounts were client side, so people were just blocking addresses, and so somebody that I'll leave remain unnamed, but shout out if you're listening, who dropped like 1 million or something lures. Oh, no, sorry, they dropped a whole bunch of lures in a capital city of Australia, and millions of Pokemon just came up everywhere.
Oh my god!
So that's pretty funny stuff. So I mean, when the protocol hacking is one thing, the GPS hacking was a whole nother thing, and then like reversing the actual, figuring out that your inventory numbers were also stored at client side and allowed to make the requests to the server. Absolutely hilarious.
I just find it mind-blowing that so many companies still don't know to never trust the client. Like, it's boggling.
The client server model is not very hard. It's not very difficult. The
Yeah.
server is yours, and the client is not. Like,
Yeah.
Right?
that's the
That's a
end.
good
That's
summary.
the end of it.
Yeah, I definitely see though like that kind of thing. Like the reason why we're like trying to rush out stuff and add new features is definitely a scaling issue of passing data back and forth and managing all the tokens and everything you need to implement full server side everything. So, but yeah, I mean it's definitely a lot of lessons learned from that for anybody who is a budding ARG app developer. But yeah, if you are interested though, definitely check them out.
Yeah, I think
See you on
if
the
you
other
are
side.
if you are going to be writing something that is a lot of features client side, try and keep them to UI, like as much UI stuff as possible, like the
Mhm.
thinnest client you can, so that the user has the feedback that maybe they can't do something, but the actual logic that does important things remains on the server.
It kind of bugs me how this game is like so used by kids, like a lot, but they didn't put any effort into like protecting them. Like the
Mhm.
potential for like a pedophile to abuse this is like pretty rare.
Yeah, there's like some location disclosure stuff. Like, I think it was with Fitbit or something, some like smartwatch company got hit really hard with their data protection stuff that was going on, and Pokemon Go still sucks at that same thing.
I'm pretty sure we covered a story. You'll remember this, but there was a story where people would not watching where they were going in Pokemon Go, and they're looking at their screen, and they're walking down like dark alleys and getting robbed, and people like knew that good Pokemon would kind of deal.
Yeah,
Jeez.
absolutely. That's a huge thing. Being able to technologically bait people, saying, "Oh, there's a Gengar over here."
Yeah,
Oh,
Gengar's spawned down here. Come on down, and we won't take your wallet and your phone and your Pokemon.
And they know, yeah, because they know you have a phone too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Let's see how many
Yeah,
people
yeah.
walk down this alley today.
Never a good idea.
yeah. The next story that we have on here is pretty interesting revelation here. So apparently Twitter does not delete your DMs like at all. Apparently everything is just retained for a very long time, including messages that you and others have deleted, and also data sent to and from accounts that have been deactivated or suspended. And actually, oh, this is I didn't even realize this is Karan. Shout outs to Karan for finding this here. So there's he was able to find years old messages in a file from an archive of his data. And yeah, this is definitely interesting though, because there's people use Twitter all the time, DMs, group messages for all sorts of shady stuff. And even if you send something and delete it thinking you're being sneaky, it's still there. And it's gonna eat it. So yeah, I don't know if anybody
I think it's very important to remember that any social media platform is a social media platform, and like I can say for myself, I like Twitter because when I tweet, it's going to everyone. I know that's the plan, right? In my brain, the plan is I'm broadcasting this, So I guess
Yeah,
it's the same with
anything-
DMs. Like, yeah, the whole platform. Just imagine the whole platform you're broadcasting to the world. If you really want to, with the CLSSPs, people were tweeting their docs. That's funny. If you deleted the DM, I guess they're still going to be in the ThugCrowd data dump. Hello, please don't hold it.
yes, please, absolutely do not do that. Again, I will reiterate it. I will reiterate this again because this keeps happening. The CLSSP is only available to people who have been guests on the show, contributors to our podcast, or $10 or more patrons on Patreon. You cannot get it by just sending us your address in the first message, because I will not.
Yikes.
I'm not even going to open it.
Gosh, I can't believe people are actually doing that. Oh my god. I
Maybe
didn't know
we
that was
should
an
just
issue.
Screenshots.
But yeah, like people need to people need to realize that once you post something to the internet, it doesn't matter if it's DM or what, always go with the assumption that it is permanently there, even if there is a deletion option.
Yeah, definitely.
So-
Hey,
Sorry, I had to my microphone got messed up. I'm still saying, after many warnings, people are still sending us their addresses, their full addresses. Don't do that, please. Stop doing it. Telling you again, don't.
Or at least start sending your social security number and credit card number with it.
Yeah, and
Yeah, of course.
again, because we've had a lot of people. There's been a lot of our CLSSPs have gone out and people have been tweeting about them, and then people say, "Can I get one?" And people say, "Talk to ThugCrowd." And then when that happens, yeah, there it goes. Either people just asking or people sending their full docs. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely as well, like this, I can't confirm exactly this case with Twitter in the case of Discord, but it's very verbose, the logging from Discord's as well. And so even though you're logged in and you're having a DM with someone, again, just apply this to everything you do, Discord, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah, I believe Discord's actually being pretty heavily looked into right now by some investigation services, just because of the amount of stuff that's going on the server or on the platform in general, just like the info security and actual bad malicious actors making servers. So their logging's been definitely getting up the ante right now.
Yeah, just request your own data and look at it, and then we don't need to tell you about it. You'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see the you up. It's 3 a.m. DMs. Speaking though of data privacy and retention, thousands of Android apps are permanently recording your online activity for ad targeting. This is not a new thing, but this is just worth reiterating here. People, reporting on this. There are tons of apps that violate Google's policies on user tracking and advert monetization because they're policies and guidelines that people who are unscrupulous are not going to follow. The same with telemarketers and the do not call list. It's all just a ruse. Realistically, if you want to call people and spam them every day, you can. There's nothing really stopping you. And so with this, there are there's tons of applications that do this, where they have tons of ad networks, people pouring in scripts onto your phone, and they use those things for ad personalization and targeting, and they build literal permanent records and profiles of you that are traded among data brokers all over the place. And they are able to target you not as a name per se, but as an individual and a data point, but they can act and get more data if they trade the data they've already collected on. This is definitely a huge thing to look out for. And ask yourself when you want to download some Snapchat dog filter add-on from some sketchy third party. There's people that are just using all the data that you use from this to build a profile. That was quite a rant.
I think with this it's pretty obvious that if you like, we've seen worse apps like this on the store, but I guess it's the unassuming ones. And I think like my policy when it comes to apps on any device, like whether it be installing shit from the internet, installing games, installing whatever, if you don't need it, don't install. Like that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Like just all right, so you want to have Twitter on your phone, and you want to have like a couple of other things. You want to have maybe whatever you commonly use. Don't just like browse the app store on your main device that has your that you use every day, and install like 500 apps and be like, let's see what this one does.
Yeah, it's just literally adding an entire new attack surface from that app.
Yeah, just every time you add an app, just like increases. It's a multiplier.
Something I actually did to some of my buddies recently was that I showed them CVEs for like common games like Minecraft and stuff, and they're like, "Whoa, what the fuck? This is actually a thing? You can get hacked from Minecraft? What?" Like people don't understand like those privilege escalation attacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's no different with Android, as like between desktop or any mobile device. It's a computer. It runs the codes.
Keep in mind your devices can get fingerprinted too. So like if you're making like burner accounts for shit like Grindr or whatever the fuck you're using, like you're still gonna get tracked to your device. So maybe don't use your main for whatever shit you want to use.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you can afford it, definitely. I have multiple burner phones that I use to install the sketchy apps that I want to check out. Definitely suggest that. Have a burner Gmail on it and just play around. Actually, did a stream of that with Hermit a while ago of just downloading every crappy app until the emulator. It's good stuff. You'll see how quickly though. You only need a few, and you all of a sudden have lock screen ads and shit like that. So.
TX, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is you're talking about like apps in the, top 100 apps. We're not talking about the shadiest shit you can find on the App Store. Like on the Play Store, there are bad stuff that just will end up in the top 100 because if you think about it from the perspective of a marketeer whose job it is to market the apps, or also known as a spammer, their job is to get that thing to 5 stars with as many downloads as possible, and that's what they do. They'll get said app that the best flashlight app or whatever. Is they just push it to the top of the store for flashlights, and away you go.
Yeah, wasn't that flashlight app a few years ago like a huge botnet?
A huge botnet.
Yeah, I
There was,
believe so.
there was another Flash app that for iOS, and if you wanted to do what is it, data tethering, you would install that, and there was a secret option to install data tethering when I think it was AT&T didn't let you do that.
Oh, subversion of the
Yeah. Oh
code.
no. This was the flashlight app is a banking Trojan. Something
Oh
stupid.
no.
It was one of the most popular ones on there. So yeah, it's definitely. Speaking of banking Trojans, when we were talking about the downloading every app, Herman found the best app that I've ever seen. It was called All Banks Login, and it was like it was just every bank possible listed on this really awful like Python web views sort of thing. That was just like every bank's login page, and you just scroll through all the banks to find yours,
Ooh.
and then it brings you to the login page of your bank.
Yeah,
Real good scheme. There's a lot
that's
of
actually
downloads, hundreds of thousands.
so in Australia. There's actually this service that's I won't name because it's actually pretty large, but you can find it if you Google for 3 seconds. And the way that it works is it basically gets you to log into your bank account in its like iframe, and then you make a transaction, and it will confirm that you made that transaction. It's literally like malware spyware, like watching you enter your password to like your bank details, and then it
Hmm.
will. And that's a legitimate service that's owned by a large company, and it's PCI compliant, lol, and all kinds of other stuff.
Jeez.
That's one I tend to avoid.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on the App Store. Speaking of the App Store again, Android here. Tor traffic from individual Android apps is being detected with 97% accuracy. So this is pretty
Ooh.
interesting. There's basically people have just found a way to not reveal your IP address or any identifying information, but it will reveal if you are using an Android app. And there's basically like fingerprinting of the types of traffic being routed over Tor. So if you're using like the Tor browser for Android or any of the other Tor or bot, I think is the other one, any of those, the actual traffic patterns that you have are becoming easy to detect. So if you think you're being sneaky with that on Tor, you might not be, especially if you're using like Facebook Messenger or Discord.
Yeah,
Interesting
I think
stuff.
like Tor is one of those things where it can be used in a safe way, but the NSA own like X amount of the onions anyway. So attribution can be difficult unless that they're actually hunting you. I guess I suppose is the way to put it. I mean, it's not that silver bullet that a lot of people are out there claiming it is. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
you
It's
can definitely.
you can do it. It's very, very difficult, but it mainly relies on like metadata, like and correlation of shit. Like when, like for example, APT29, when they did that phishing attack in November, they used the same virtual machine from 2 years previous to like make the new malware for that campaign. So like there is ways to successfully attribute stuff, but it's not always easy.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for anyone who installs Kali Linux on their machines, this is one of those wake ups. Do it in a VM and don't use the same VM.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm definitely anybody using Tor though. It's always a risk. I definitely avoid it as much as I can unless I'm trying to go check out my
You know, we did actually have someone who popped into the community briefly who was a sole Tor user. They didn't apparently. They
Oh
didn't
yes,
like
yes.
complete it.
That was real sketchy. That was really sketchy.
yeah.
If you only use Tor, there's something wrong with you. That's
Yeah,
not okay.
it's like they called us weird. They're like, you got like everyone in here is so weird. They only use the ClearNet, and we're like, no, you're the weird one. You just hang out
Yeah.
with Tor all day. That's freaking sketchy as hell.
It's really
I
weird.
once had a user who complained that the service wasn't working, and no matter what I tried, I just couldn't work out what was going on. And then eventually I said, "What browser are you using?" And he said, "I'm using a modified Dolphin browser from a long, long time ago that I compile myself." And I said, "Why are you doing that?" And he said, "Privacy. I don't want anyone. I don't trust any new browsers. I just use my browser." And then I had a look at his user agent. It had his full name in it.
Hell
Oof.
yeah.
Holy
Hell yeah.
shit.
What a
Wow.
champion.
Privacy.
What a
Privacy.
Chad.
That's,
You are the privacy advocate, my friend.
On that note, if you're a malware author, don't compile your malware on your main because you will also get that shit in your fucking metadata.
Absolutely. We've proven that many times with dumping and using just Robin too. You just literally just like you don't need anything, strings, easy
Yeah.
to pull that shit out. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Just on the topic of metadata, actually, there's an ISP in Australia who have a fair go policy, which probably sounds pretty weird if you're from overseas, but a fair go policy is pretty common in Australia, and it's just like Australian colloquialism. But the website was like telco.com/fairgo or whatever, and when you click the link, it would download a doc file, like just straight up .doc gets downloaded to your desktop. And looking in the metadata, like somebody had said, like, who writes this shit? And it literally had the person's like full name, the fact they were running Windows XP, like when they wrote it, all that kind of stuff. So it's not just for malware authors; it's for everyone.
Yes, yes.
There's been some propaganda cases where you download the docs and it's supposedly been from some US agency, but then the Russian author from Moscow is in there. So upset people.
Metadata? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So speaking of OPSEC, Google Earth accidentally reveals secret military sites. Yeah, this has happened a few times. So Taiwan, some of their sensitive military sites have been revealed publicly through Google Earth. And so that's one of the big challenges of Google Earth is being able to, hide and obscure everything that is, normally most people don't have a satellite to fly overhead and they need some sort of, military equipment. And they have to hide a lot of these missile sites all over the world. There's a lot of really interesting videos and presentations about this specifically, but all it takes is one update where somebody forgot to scrub data from one of them, and this kind of thing happens where it just shows the exact layout of your missile stuff. If you blurt out a whole town or a whole like region, it tells you the exact location of it, what the capabilities are, and there's a lot of information that you can glean from that. Like people have really expensive military missions to scope out this kind of thing, and it sucks. Has you compromised an entire country doing something like this?
I mean, during World War II, with the Allied forces taking out the dams with the bouncing bomb, one of the things they were using was flyovers with stereoscopic, like the red blue shift. I think they're the red blue shift type, or multiple photos, so they could estimate the height of the dam and some other things like that. If that was these days, they have like Google. Hit up Germany on Google Maps and like let's see where they are. Like and that's not even like spy satellite capability. That's just like what normal people have on the internet now.
Yeah.
It's so weird to think about, actually.
Yeah, like something that changed the course of a war, or like made a specific impact, isn't very special anymore, and that's really weird, right?
Yeah, it's like incredibly average now. Like everyone's just like, all right, let's up on like Google Earth and we'll see what's going on. Play around with that weird jet thing that they have.
I think with like Area 51, and some places, certain bases in Australia as well, are just like white. But the thing is, I guess that they're the ones that Google are told to block, or for whatever or know to block. I don't know how that relationship works. But with a foreign country like Taiwan, like are they hitting up Google, being like, "Hey, here's the location of our bases. Google owned by America." Like I don't know. It seems like a very interesting problem.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So next, last news item that we have on here, it's definitely an interesting thing that I want to read about a bit more and how it's implemented, is Google is creating a new browser API that will try to block DOM injection XSS through a plugin that basically is trying to lock down and monitor injection points in websites' code that are often the cause of XSS. And so I'm assuming that this is probably looking at like input fields and anywhere else where input is coming from, and just monitoring that for any differences in rendering after it's been rendered first time. Which it's complicated because there's a lot of different ways to render stuff and a lot of complex like mechanisms that happen server side and client side that make up the whole web. So I'm interested to see how this actually gets implemented.
I feel like this is, if to dumb it down, maybe like the WAF for the client, as opposed for the WAF to the server. But we see WAF bypasses all the time, and we see web developers coming up with new and interesting, terrible ways to inject shit into the DOM. So I can't really see this being like, again, a silver bullet or anything. Maybe it'll stop it a little bit. Like there's already XSS protection on most browsers as it is for reflected XSS. But the DOM based stuff, like if you've got something like Handlebars or Mustache or one of those UI libraries, that's gonna they're very dynamic, and they're not all going to be supported. Some will stop working, some will work worse. Like I'll be interested to see how this is actually going to not break a whole bunch of websites and still work effectively.
Yeah, they've been trying for years to just try and detect these sort of things, and it's not very basic things. I don't think it's going to be anything hugely game changing here.
So
yeah,
if we recall,
it claims to obliterate DOM XSS, so we'll see.
But if we recall, B-Sides Manchester had a talk on the JavaScript sandbox escapes in Angular, and the final result of that Angular came to was just removing the sandbox altogether and removing that feature set. It left because it was impossible to stop the attacks.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're not going to see JavaScript go away. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it's so hard to detect what's legit and what's not. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I guess like get CSP and X-frame options and like a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a whole bunch of headers that are supposed to be respected and whatever. I guess make it a bit harder, but yeah.
Beautiful stuff. So yeah, we had a couple of a lot of good reads this week. Some I want to get more into the Spectre one. It seemed really awesome. But the big one that we were going to talk about too, which we included in here, was the collection of Docker Run C POCs that have been put out. There's been a lot and a race to sort of weaponize the script. Has anybody played with any of them?
Played with, yeah. It worked as expected. The Python one.
Python one's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't actually run that one yet.
It's super easy. It's like kind of run it, you win sort of thing.
Yeah. Which I think, I guess that's again a testament for the level of technical capability it would take to actually pull off an attack. Answer not very high.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I think did we miss something on the news? Were we going to talk about the Australian stuff?
Oh, we did. Yes. Oh, absolutely, completely forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that back up. I made it blue on blue. Kind of regret that. Major parties were hit by foreign government hackers in an attack on Australian Parliament servers. This was really interesting. But Australians in the chat right now, what's up with this?
Well, I think I'm calling bullshit. First of all, I'm calling bullshit on more than one thing on this case. First of all, why did they attack the parliamentary system specifically? And second of all, the guy who has claimed attribution on Twitter, which is his handle is at the zero contact, has a signed stat deck, like statutory declaration signed by a JP, like Justice of the Peace, that says he's taking full responsibility for this. Now, the methods that he used in this quote sophisticated attack were spear phishing from Proton Mail to certain people within, like known people as well, like people whose names you can Google. And it's very not very exciting at all. There's no in this document that this guy's put together with screenshots. It doesn't look sophisticated at all. Not like it's not a foreign government. It's apparently a guy from Queensland, and from what I can tell, he might smoke meth. That's total speculation, but this seems like really crazy. I'm like, I don't know if I've got no evidence to say he smokes meth, but just reading through the article, I was like, what? Like, why would you do this and then claim that you did this? Why would the government come out and say it's they're going after the crown jewels inside the parliamentary system? I don't think they keep the actual crown jewels inside of Parliament House for crypto and other things like that. That sounds pretty silly.
I can tell you why they've come out and said that. If you have a look at the reports, they're linking it already to the election, even though it's got nothing to do with it. They're saying that, don't worry, everyone, our election software is safe. It's like, who the hell mentioned that? Nobody.
Right.
This is just another thing that they're trying out to get the votes, and it could be a propaganda piece.
Yeah, I'm extremely skeptical. This saying a sophisticated attacker, and I think at this point, through news articles, is definitely fear mongering. Because if you're talking about a true sophisticated attacker, you're likely talking about another nation. They are saying that there's Chinese flags everywhere, as possible sources. But if there was anything that could tie it to China, I don't think they'd be so quick to let that out of the bag. And it just seems to be that all the information here is coming from either the media or this guy's like Twitter and website. So it's a very, very sketchy sort of scenario.
And don't forget, the Australian government can't do anything right in IT. So who knows? They could have left everything open. Look at what happened in 2016 with the census. They were allowed to do census online in 2016. 30 people hit it or whatever, and all of a sudden they thought it was a DOS attack, so they disabled it for a couple of days. We can't do anything right here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the agency is involved with our like offensive and defensive, cyber stuff. I think they've got very skilled people and they do what they do. So for a real sophisticated attack to target those people, I doubt that we're going to hear about it at all. just very, very sketchy the way that this is all come out on, like, I first heard about it on like mainstream TV with the Prime Minister talking about it. That's
Yeah. No, it's definitely like for this kind of thing, like there's been so many like just sketchy activities and responses to things and really quick attribution. It's really it gets very murky very quickly. Not really easy to know who to trust.
I think if there's some documents that come out with that are a verified third-party investigation with technical details and some sort of actual data other than like abc.net. Come on, man. I want to see some.
Yeah.
I want to see some hard evidence that shows me what happened, not some guy fishing from Proton.
You'll get nothing. I tried doing a Freedom of Information for the 2016 census, and I went back and forth a million times, and I couldn't even get a single image of their knock monitoring. They wouldn't let anything through. So we're probably not going to see anything.
There we go. So if this is going to change if you thought this was going to change your vote during the next election, maybe vote for the people who aren't lying. I don't know. That's pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So that's the news this week.
Was it?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, trying to figure some things out. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I guess I didn't read the whole article, but you guys saw that Spectre is here to stay. That Spectre and Meltdown won't be going anywhere thanks to the sheer nature of the architecture and welcome.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people were saying when it initially hit too. It's like, yeah, there's not much they can do. They're like, no, we swear, there's something we can do. They're like, hey, just kidding.
Yeah, I thought I was expecting to see fixes in like next gen CPUs. Obviously, not like nothing backported because that's
obviously
ridiculous. But but to say that it's just going to be until we change architecture, have fun, everyone.
Yeah.
And over the time as well, I guess the impact is going to raise as faster methods of exfiltration and whatnot appear. That's, a good sideshow to watch.
I think right now it's still like such on the back burner for them. They're like, hey, we'll deal with it later. Like, it's not a huge problem yet, but as the exploit gets more and more reliable, then they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, especially when you like Intel Ethernet adapters and iGPUs and other things that are happening in the CPU as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you have like a NUC, right, everything is on board. So
easy peasy.
Yeah, and I think that's more of the problem. Whereas if you have a separate everything, it's a little bit different, but not. It's if so. I guess with the Marvel firmware stuff we saw, with was it X-Thread? I think was the name of the firmware. Like if you tied that up with something where there's like no user interaction in order to get to said location and it's at a hardware level all the way, like that would be very interesting, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yo, DNZ, say something. I just turned up your volume and everyone's saying that you're too low.
I'm too low. Yo, mic check. Holla, holla, holla. We them boys, holla.
Yeah, about 200%.
Yeah. No, I got you. I put you up a little bit, so you should be good now.
All right.
Oh yeah. So, all right, let's get into this sort of Ask Me Anything. We have kind of more people are doing other things right now, so we're kind of just here. So if you have any questions or people that aren't here, we can totally ask them for them later if you need to, and follow up after. So yeah. Beautiful stuff. So I'm hoping Broke Sheet comes on because he just popped into the chat and said buy Dogcoin. So I'm really hoping he comes on because he's awesome, and he's actually probably people have been wanting to talk to him for a while because he's the person who produced our theme songs, our multiple theme songs, and has generally helped guided a lot of the music that we play. at the beginning of the stream. So shout out to Broke Chic wherever you are. Oh, there he is.
Oh,
He's
Christ.
listening.
What up, bro?
I guess we can just start getting into some of the questions that are in here. Broke Chic said he's making beats and listening. So shout out to you. I guess let's go from the first question that was asked on the stream, which is what led to the ThugCrowd Pornhub being created? So the ThugCrowd Pornhub came out of the fact that we got banned from YouTube maybe a month into having a YouTube or a couple months into having a YouTube. We would stream on there. We had a bunch of followers, and it was a pretty good way to diversify the streams. And yeah, we got reported for violating community guidelines and for promoting fraud or something like that. It was like something super vague that said
fuck you,
promoting crimes. And so then we were trying to fucking figure out what the best way we could do stuff was. So we were actually streaming on vapors.tv as well as Twitch, and we got banned from there. And so we're now just on Twitch and Twitter, and hopefully it would stay. But we did float the idea of streaming on a cam website that probably would have a user base that wouldn't really like us, but at the very least, we'd have some way to stream.
Get some chatterbait.
Just in case it happened anywhere else. Yeah, so we're gonna do that. It costs money to do that though, for the ones that you get tokens on and stuff. So it seemed like it was just a little too much extra to have to configure at the stage we were at as a podcast. So we made a Pornhub, and we have it for the name. We also have an archive of a stream up there. If you guys want to check it out, it's pornhub.com/ThugCrowd or just, I would say search ThugCrowd on Twitter. On Pornhub, but I don't want to know what the results are.
Is there hacker porn on Pornhub?
Okay, so I've seen some really cool or really funny stuff on there. One of them was a guy doing an XSS on Google Earth. Unexplained, nothing, but it was just on Pornhub. It was a really long video too, so you can watch that. There's also one of them of people in anonymous masks. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Oh, no.
What is? Yeah, I definitely if you're into that kind of thing and don't mind wading through a bunch of weird, sketchy downloads that are just and random about blank pop-ups that are just popping up all over your thing, and go for it. Have fun on there. Very strange.
On the topic of hacker porn, let's not forget. I think it was DEF CON 17. Hackser No Longer Floppy was released.
Oh my god!
And it was definitely you can learn how to use Nmap in that. You can learn what a buffer overflow is. You can also see some very D-grade porn. I would recommend anyone to go not watch that. But it is available. It is. Somebody tried, and I commend their effort. But that's the only thing I commend.
Yeah, but I will say though that I do find it really cool that people have tried to move to Pornhub for places where it is their freedom of speech is not protected. Because Pornhub really doesn't delete much unless it's very violent or something that harms people that shouldn't be.
Yeah, they definitely they took down the deepfakes because they were considered non-consensual. So they do moderate their content in the way their content needs to be moderated, I guess is the way.
For what the site is meant for, it's moderated correctly.
I definitely I think that what's it called? I think it's cool because I remember seeing that there was some of the ghost gun people were on there making videos and stuff, and just it's interesting to see the people who do move to it where it is a stable streaming service, so you can have super HD video on there that's really long. So definitely interesting alternative.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
okay.
With our streaming. Sorry, I was just gonna say with our streaming platforms as well. Remember, ThugCrowd started as a joke.
Absolutely. And we actually next month have our 1-year anniversary coming up, so we'll get into more of the origin story then. But a lot of the stuff here has just been real cheeky shit that just got out of control. Read the CLSSP movies, John McAfee, etc. All right, let's go on to the next question here. It's kind of a long one, and it's
Oh Christ!
it's something that a lot of people will be able to weigh in on here. It's really cool. So, all right, so this is from Roper. All right, so my question is, my question might be a bit of an odd one. So it says, I'm rather new to the scene, although I'm in school for general comp sci. I'm interested in getting into pen testing and digital forensics, but I'm not sure of the best way to go about it. Do you have resources you particularly like, such as people to follow, books to read, websites to go on, software to tool around with? And lastly, what is the best way to get your hands on the practice without getting a knock on the door from the FBI? So this is something that people ask us a lot, and I wanted to open it up to you guys to kind of answer this.
I can
Pen
speak
Tester
to the
Lab.
G3.
I was just gonna say Pen Tester Lab. So pentesterlab.com. Go there. They have free stuff. There is also a subscription, and we have some subscriptions to give away in the future. We don't have any reason to give. We don't have any challenges or anything to give away right now, but we do have some Pen Tester Lab promo codes that will be going out at sometime in the future.
Oh, Busted, your mic is doing a big buzz.
If you're interested in getting into forensics, there's not too many like hack the boxes for forensics, but keep in mind like places like hack the boxes are literally places where people are just gonna like start hacking shit. So if you wanted to get into forensics, it's probably not a bad idea to go and fuck around those boxes, like see what you can find out. But also build your own labs. Like people like, what can I pen test? What can I do myself? Like if you want to do some like simple challenges, like build your own stuff and then examine it. As far as books, The Art of Memory Forensics is really good. Anything platform specific, you'd want to get into like the specific architecture. So like Windows, read like Windows Internals Part 1 and 2 from Microsoft Press.
I think a good rule of thumb for this stuff is anything you want to learn, even at like a super basic level or more advanced level, you can do it for free or for very cheap. Like for really getting started, there's over-the-wire war games, Hack the Box, Hack This Site, Micro Corruption, like VulnHub, RootMe. There's a ton of different sites, all with a bunch of free resources for this stuff.
Exploit exercises as well. Shout out to Agus.
And I think ThugCrowd has a library. Do we?
I don't think it's actually a ThugCrowd library, but there is a library that we offer.
There's a ghost bin that has a ton of resources. I'm pretty sure there's like all pirated, but I mean they're there nonetheless.
ThugCrowd doesn't have a library. We have an aggregation of links to well-known things. So yeah, but I wouldn't. You don't necessarily have to pirate anything. I would say that there are lots of awesome link aggregations that people do. There's like if you look up on GitHub any like awesome pen testing or awesome forensic, people kind of tag them with the awesome name. I've seen. There's a bunch of different resource dumps of just tutorials. There's one of them that I saw that was for every programming language. They had like a ton of resources on every single one of them, which is amazing.
Yeah, another thing
yeah,
that
there's
sorry, continue.
Oh, I was just saying that there's just tons of stuff like that, and it seems overwhelming at first, but it's kind of like you just got to pick a spot and then just jump in when you can.
Yeah, so one of the things that I also do as well that may not make a lot of sense to you at first, but you will start to get the gist, is subscribe to mailing lists. Like now that I'm a really old man, I'm going to tell you like you have to subscribe to mailing lists. But if you subscribe to OSS Security, Full Disclosure, and a bunch of those other lists that are just listed on seclists.org, and send them to an inbox, like to like a tag or a folder in your inbox or something, and just scroll through it. Like turn off notifications because you get spammed to hell, and read the things that you think are interesting, and you'll see people talking about different kinds of bugs, and that will just keep you thinking about things when you come across other stuff. You'll be like, oh, that's right, I saw somebody exploited this. How did that work? Is that applicable here? And the more sort of stuff that you hoover up into your brain, you'll start then applying that to other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And off of that, I'm just like, just start getting involved. Like, start projects even if you think they're going to be a bit too much. Just start throwing yourself at things. Honestly, that's the best way to learn. Just like start over the wire bandit if you're new to all of this. Start Linux stuff. Start doing hack the box stuff. Look at YouTube. YouTube's a great resource just for finding out how to figure out tools and stuff. Install Kali Linux. There's tons of stuff out there. You just have to be able to find it.
I was
And you
gonna
know,
say, sorry, just quickly, I was just gonna say, pick up an admin book on Linux or Windows, whatever platform you're using, and just actually learn what's, what it's all about, because there's no point jumping the gun trying to hack the Gibson when you don't even know what ls means. I know a lot of a lot of computer science subjects only teach the computer science part of it, but they don't teach the admin, the sysadmin side. So yeah.
something I've been trying to do recently is I've been like mentoring a lot of high school kids and all that to try and get started. A site, if you've never used like, a terminal before or something like that, Linux Survival is great for that. And generally, if there's something you have an idea, like a project you want to do or something you can do, it's probably achievable. You can ask around. There's great YouTube channels. There's certain Discord communities you can join.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I shared our link here. Our Discord is leap.club, so you are all free to join and ask questions. We do have. It seems intimidating because there's a lot of big Discords that have a lot of channels like ours does. In our resource section, we have a tech support and a coding questions channels. Those, if you ask questions in there, we promise that nobody is allowed to troll at all or be like trying to be memey. If you ask a question in a general channel, you might get trolled just because people are snarky sometimes. But we definitely like to have a place where we can not just meme each other and say install Gentoo. So yeah.
There's also like tools for the job as well. So what you like, it's good to when I say tools for the job, I'm not talking about actual tools. I'm talking about languages or operating systems or whatever. Like, running Kali Linux, as we mentioned earlier, on your desktop, not a great idea. Running Kali Linux because you don't know how to create that Linux environment to use for your task, good idea. There's a lot of different things that you sort of need to. You might read somebody tells you something is awesome, but then look for another source and kind of see, wait, 5 people say that this way is good, and 10 people say that way is bad because of reasons, and then they give alternatives. There's a lot of things that you like. Don't take the first thing you read as sort of the gospel or whatever, or the Quran, or whoever you love to follow.
On that note, there's a lot of really old tech reference material and books and stuff that's very, very knowledge or good for like the knowledge building. But in like practical terms, it's probably not the best to be like following shit out of them. Like for example, I was in my school one day a few years ago, and I was just walking down the hall, and there's this whole row of books that were on a table, and they were free, so I just snatched all the computer books. And one of them was a computer security basics book by O'Reilly from like 1990. But like, it's pretty interesting to read some of that stuff, and like some of like the general advice they give there is valid, but like keep in mind like things that they're telling you to do in the 90s probably aren't good practice anymore. So you probably shouldn't be doing it like straight copy pasta from the book.
Yeah, I guess like one really good piece of advice that I got a long time ago, from like, it was funny. I got in trouble at school for computers like everybody else, or like a lot of other people, and the teacher weren't able to help me very much with what the things I was interested in. But the guy who worked at my school for IT, he gave me a copy of BSD, and he just said, install this without a desktop and just do everything that you can do on your desktop, minus installing the GUI without X, right? And I just learned a shit ton about like Nix-based systems and getting stuff done by reading man pages, just the straight man ls or whatever. And like when you're making the switch to Kali, like it comes all set up pre everything you sort of need, but you don't really understand how it works. So if that's what you want to run, it's very, very useful looking at how the internals work. And then when you get to the point where you're looking at living off the land, so using only the things available to you on a system, you'll actually find that, hey, all of these tools are great, but I can do stuff without them. But it'll take a little while to put that whole loop together. And by a little while, probably like quite a few years of getting real knee deep in stuff.
In addition, talking about books, books can be expensive. They might not be the best way to learn stuff, but there are certain countries where you can get books that would be like, for example, $80 in the United States for $5, and it would be printed in English, and it's like the exact same quality. So I'm not going to give out my sources, but there are places where you can get good books for pretty cheap.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a similar thought, I was actually really excited about this. I went to my local library, and there were actually a bunch of no-starch books there.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
becoming, slightly more public. So if anyone's here, looking to get started and don't want to jump the gun and like buy a hardcover book, maybe check out your local library. They definitely have a computer section, and among the like 2008 Microsoft Excel books, you might find a couple cool security books.
Yeah.
Also try a university library. I mean, you probably won't be able to borrow books. This question was saying that they did comp sci, but university libraries are awesome. Like the computer books are like rows and rows and rows.
Yeah. Oh, I always get so stoked when I go into like a proper bookstore for a university that has some really awesome books that I've never seen. Like, oh, what is this compiler optimization book? Like, I've never heard of this. It looks like something you'd never find anywhere else, or even be made aware of its existence in a normal circumstance. I love that. And also definitely like check out random places that you think people might be doing computer stuff, and just talk to people, ask for recommendations. And yeah, I just like, you're saying also who to follow. There's a lot of awesome people on Twitter to follow. I would say go to people that are pretty popular, and see who they follow. Kind of scroll through their list, and make your selection. Definitely take a look at who ThugCrowd is following. We follow a lot of our guests and people that are related to them, so we get a lot of awesome news right when it happens. So it's pretty sweet. The next, or what?
So I was just gonna at the end of that question, if when you do join any of these communities and stuff like that, a really good thing to do is be quiet and read before you start telling people what a great hacker you are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. More people are likely to help you if you ask a question correctly, and ask the question with the full details that you want to know the answer of, and somebody can help you, rather than come in and tell everyone what great hacker you are and then be like, oh, I can't get Kali to do insert mundane task.
Yeah.
Last thing before we
question on here. Okay, yeah, no problem.
Oh, I was just going to say that if you're a university, CCDC is a very, very good resource to getting into cybersecurity. Whether it's red team or blue team, you get to know the fundamentals behind both, and how actual engagements and adversary simulations go. It's a very, very good resource.
I was just going to add a final note. If you go to a library and they don't have any good computer books, you can actually ask them to order them. I remember when I was in high school, I asked my library to order 2,600, and they bought the whole catalog for $300.
Holy shit!
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm posting the next question in our chat. This is from Down to Earth Guy. It's similar to the last question, but it kind of asks us a bit more about what we've done. So it says, I am new to InfoSec, and I was wondering how you got into what you do today. What were your first exercises in security? So this is something that gotta remember. Don't say anything that might get you in trouble. But yeah, I could start. I used to play around with computers a lot when I was younger. My first taste of the dark side was when I figured out how to change my house on this Harry Potter game when I was 9, and yeah, I got into Gryffindor even though I got Hufflepuff. So XSS baby.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I was sort of always wanted, like I was into video games and gaming and stuff, and game modding sort of led a little bit more into it than running like game servers. And then the IRC bots that interacted with the game servers that were just like running Merc and Merc script that I cobbled together got owned. I was like, holy crap, what is this? And then I became a developer for a long time because there was no InfoSec community. And then moved into security, like while doing like being a secure developer and keeping up to everything I can, and then sort of transitioned into more what we know now as security.
I'm actually very similar. Like my first introduction was I had gotten hacked on a website I was making when I was like maybe 11, 12. I don't know how old I was. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Why am I at a face all of a sudden? And I just kind of went down the rabbit hole of researching and figuring out what Backtrack was and just learning the tools on there. Just really throwing yourself into it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people got into this kind of thing because they either experienced something that like probably scary at the time and just decided to go deeper, or they're just a lot of people also did stuff like I guess wanting to cheat in games. That was a huge thing actually Shell had discussed before as well. There's a lot of when I was like little and like using Game Shark and figuring out how Game Shark worked and stuff like that. Like those kind of things are what inspired a lot of people. And so I feel like for people who want to get into like security and computer stuff in general, reverse engineering, like a lot of that just really requires that you just let your mind be as curious as you would be as when you were a kid. I think that's like what it needs. Honestly,
honestly.
Like ask the questions about stuff that you might already assume to be infallible. Like, oh, you type into a chat window and then message happens. Like, how does that happen? How does it work? And then go deeper and deeper, ask the dumbest possible questions, and then you eventually are able to really, I guess, let yourself go and think about all the different possibilities and how things could be different. And I feel like that's something that doesn't really get taught as much. A lot of like the coding schools and things are all more about like problem solving, but I think that beyond problem solving is just more of like being able to foster like your sort of like inner child, like innate curiosity.
I think there's a huge thing that is lacking in many of the courses that I've seen run, like through universities, cyber degrees, infosec students that are, they want to get into the industry or whatever. But the one thing that I find lacking is I guess what we'd know as the hacker mindset, which is something you can't really teach. And one of the places that you get it is from being on like a shady IRC channel where you're scared of everyone and everyone could like destroy you at any moment. They could, I'm not talking about docs. I'm talking about like wrecking your machine, cutting off your utilities, like things that could, you don't want to happen, right? And it's kind of like that's scary, and you should know about it. And I'm not saying you should do any of it, but you should at least know how that works, why people do that. Because if you're going to be a defender, that's what you're going to be defending against. And if you're going to be like on offense, then that's what you're going to be emulating, is really emulating people who don't care about you or your life on the internet. They don't care about a lot of things, and they're often like monetarily driven. Like, take all these things that you'll see and be like, keep that in your head that like, why would somebody take over this server that does nothing? Because now they've got a server to use for something else, something more malicious. They want to add your crappy WordPress 5 remote code execution that came out today to their botnet before it gets patched. Like, that's what they want. And there's only one way to learn it, and it's not at school, unfortunately.
Yeah. Because like that's the other thing too, is a lot of stuff like, especially for like exercises and things like CTFs, they teach like the one way to get into something, but there's infinite ways to do everything, and the infinite ways to be just a straight scoundrel, whether or not it's something that's technically impressive or the dumbest thing that involves just sending somebody a phishing link and they click it and then boom, you're domain admin. Like there's tons of ways, and you have to think about like it's hard to be both like curious as well as just like straight evil. But you got to think like, if I'm gonna try to rob somebody, if this being able to compromise this account was between me and eating, if that was your actual scenario, which is a scenario for a lot of people who scam and do malware, think about it like that. That's the other thing too. If you can ever do thought experiments with yourself about, how would you do something if eating or sending your kids to school or getting your kids medicine was on the line.
Imagine, like, I think a really good example that we don't really see anymore is like IRC takeovers, right? It's really, so for anyone that's not on IRC, there's a thing called ops, and the person with ops has the ability to kick and ban people from the channel, so on and so forth, from a text channel. And there was some really pretty simple ways to take over the channel, but it was the things that were around on IRC were more like people trying to get clout, like grab a badge of honor by taking over this big channel with all these people. And ultimately, it's like a futile goal, right? Like they might take over the channel, they might take over the server, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It'll get restored. They just did some crime for like absolutely no reason other than to try and look cool. And back in the 90s and stuff, like people used to log on to IRC because it showed the host that you logged on from. They would log on from like NASA.gov or something like that. Log on and that was like the hey, I'm obviously in this place because I'm logging in from X, Y, and Z and like all the places. And I definitely wouldn't tell anyone to do that. The 90s were a very different time. People got their doors kicked in. A lot of people didn't do too well out of it, but that was a lot of the thing that happened. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think though, like, coming back to the original question, like, what were your first exercises? I feel like the first exercises were more just like self-preservation, and I feel like being able to sort of put yourself out there and understand what actually can happen to you is definitely a huge thing, and also definitely being curious and letting yourself be curious and not being afraid to do Python for tutorial for kids if you have to, if it helps you understand, because no matter what it is, as long as it helps you to understand something and help you to remain curious, definitely take advantage of it, no matter how silly it might seem.
There's a lot of resources that are like as well that are like bad. You read it and you be like, whoever wrote this is not a good article, this is not good information, but later you'll think back on that and be able to apply it somewhere else. Like you'd be like, oh, maybe that wasn't a great idea for what they did, but either I can apply it here or I should never apply that here.
Yeah. The next question we have is similar to this. I guess we're kind of going with the career advice now. This is from No Self. So I have a question that's almost the opposite of the last question, which I think was Roper's question at the time. In regards to getting into pen testing as a professional. I got into hacking 5 years ago, skid shit, but kept learning stuff and reading books, building labs, doing VulnHub, Hack the Box, etc., and got a few small certs, and I'm working on a couple of pen test certs, now ECPPT, but every job I look at here needs a degree in comp sci or something and a couple of years experience. Is that an issue everywhere or maybe locally here? And where is a good place to get? And then it cuts off.
So one thing that I'll say to that is usually the person who's interviewing you in InfoSec jobs recognizes that you don't need a degree. The technical person, that is. But the HR people that will scan you first, they have a list of buzzwords that they need to match. And if you don't match the enough words, then they don't want to talk to you. So one thing I did to get around that as somebody who did not go to didn't complete university is I have a one-liner white font in my resume that matches for a whole bunch of buzzwords, and ones that are completely irrelevant to InfoSec, and it just shoots me to the top of most HR filters.
That's beautiful.
But also,
and I've worked at like Fortune 5 companies, so it definitely works.
Like the the whole need a degree certification things is really just to wean out like a whole bunch of people applying for that position. Like the position I just got hired for, it straight up said you need a bachelor's of science degree. I don't have that at all. I have no certifications. And like what they were saying about like it's a difference if you're interviewing with the manager or HR. HR has no idea what the fuck you're talking about. They know shit what that means. So if you have like an interview with an actual manager that understands what you're talking about and you can actually prove you know what you're talking about, you're more than likely going to land it.
Yeah, it's called the HR firewall for a reason. Like it's the first hurdle you gotta fucking get over to do anything in InfoSec.
Yeah, so one of the techniques that I use, I'm gonna like give up my whole fucking game, is I try and do a couple, like at least one talk a year at an event. It's usually like maybe a monthly event, or I've spoken at like a little bit larger conferences as well. And in that talk, I aim for a couple of things. Like I obviously want technical content to show that I know what I'm on about. I want something new, that I'm not just doing an intro that people have seen before or whatever. I try and show something that I've, like a project that I've been working on that I came up with, to the best I can. Not always been the case, but to the best I can. And then I try and, like, a lot of people think that you have to do like a backflip on stage. You know what I mean? Like you got to do the biggest, baddest jackpot on ATM, Barnaby Jack style, like RIP. But I try and do just a kickflip, like do a kickflip, and then give them something to take away with them. So try and give the audience a takeaway, and then that sort of builds this thing. And then the slide deck goes on my LinkedIn, and then it's linked in my CV, and then it goes along with the rest of my experience as well, to show that I don't just go to work every day to do computer. I actually like computer, and this is what I do with them. And then that, if I have to, if somebody asks me, like I had a recent interview where I was asked what projects have I worked on, and I was just like, damn, like which one? Let me think of the most relevant to like what I'm applying for right now. And if anybody looks at that, like those slideshows or recorded talks or whatever like that, then they can see that I'm not bullshit, and I don't have any degrees, I don't have any certificates, none of that stuff. And yeah, that's just a replacement for having those certificates, I guess. That's how I see it.
I mean, anybody you talk to in cybersecurity will always tell you that, hey, networking is absolutely huge. Like, honestly, it's a really small community, cybersecurity. Like, all these conferences, you're going to see the same people over and over again. And just start going out to various meetups, and you can network like crazy. And those guys be like, hey, I know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that can help you get a job past the HR firewall stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which I believe that's how
I totally
you got
agree,
this
yeah.
Dunks.
Twitter's great for finding work too.
Yeah. I mean, like being like able to network and also like share. I think like sharing projects that you've done is huge. Like if you could speak on it, like I able to just by research alone get a job from a completely different field too as my background. So like just being present and actively looking and learning and writing is key too. You can write anything or have a little blog, even if it's just a couple of posts, as long as it's some content that shows what you know what you're talking about. I think it's definitely a big way to get in and get that trust going, because anybody can get a cert. Realistically, you can cheat. There's cert mills. You can make up your own cert like we did. There's tons of ways to do it. But with that though, like to be able to actually seem valuable and be, get the job that will actually bolster your skills and let you grow. Putting stuff out, a good way to do. Even just writing like one day scripts, like one day exploit scripts, and putting them on GitHub and getting mad stars is a good.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's huge.
GitHub for sure. Like having stuff there that shows that you can write neat code. Even if you're not becoming a developer, you still want to be able to write neat, readable code to a point. Like you don't need to be the best programmer, but showing that you have the skill, or you have a skill that's transferable, or you have a skill that you have dabbled with, but you're not a pro at, but you've shown that you can learn things very quickly, is also a huge plus. Because learning on your feet, learning on the fly, like you'll find a lot of jobs like I guess well, we haven't aired that yet. We were speaking to a guest recently who said that their whole job is uh, figuring stuff out pretty quickly. I don't want to go too much into it, but and that's like majority of their job, see this new thing, figure it out. And I think that's really important, to be able to think on your feet and come up with new ideas and scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I like about cybersecurity is that you're always learning. And I mean, if you're not always learning, then you're not going to do very well in the field. And it's just like you learn new stuff every time you do something new. It's beautiful. Like that's why I love contracting versus red teaming and penetration testing. You learn new stuff every time you do a new engagement.
Absolutely. We got asked by, who's this? Just Isaac in the chat. What do you think about WebAssembly? Now, I haven't really played WebAssembly that much, but does anybody else have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I know you probably don't think it is, but a lot of people in the Rust community are gunning for it, and to the point where it will kill JavaScript, or at least match it 1-for-1 in terms of use. Those are my thoughts.
I definitely think WebAssembly is quite interesting, but I also look at it as another form of abstraction. Funny enough, we spoke about this on the weekend, but like if you when you write JavaScript, you're writing specific JavaScript. When you start using a framework that needs there's a compile time to build your JavaScript UI, React or something like that. There's this level of abstraction where the developer doesn't know the exact code, and I guess I can see that there's potential for introducing new and interesting bugs along the way, along this compilation process, just through the fact that it's abstracted so far. However, I guess it's a cool thing, and it's a new thing we're going to see for a while to come. It's not going anywhere.
Sweet. So Exapollo, I will answer your question in a second. So I'm trying to grab a bunch of links right now.
I'm doing the same thing.
The next one that we can answer though real quick is from Danny B_VG. So finishing up my 2-year degree, I have 2 more years, and I'll probably have to specialize and focus on a certain field of study. Any recommendations for something that's going to last? And that's a hard one for lasting, because it's a lot of things are going to teach you whatever they deem is relevant for the curriculum. I know that Hermit, in the middle of her degree, they switched from teaching Java as their core computer science curriculum to C++, and that was a huge jarring thing of then having to go to the more advanced classes and they're all C++ rather than Java, which is something huge a hurdle to have to overcome. Props to her for also learning C++ very quickly. But for those kind of things though, like things that are going to last, what do you guys think as far what non-hype things do you think would probably be the best thing to focus on as far as study goes?
Java.
Oh, man. No, I think the basics are never going anywhere. Like we've seen, XSS is as a term is 25 years old or something, 20 years old.
Oh yeah.
SQL injection, again, all that web stuff is old. Buffer overflows from the late 70s or something. We're talking these things aren't going anywhere. It's just what capacity they're used in. So we might see a lot more memory corruption protections on desktop environments. But then now IoT is a massive thing, and everything that's old is new again. So I feel like certain bug classes and things will dip for a little while, and then time comes around, and all of a sudden everyone who knows, maybe not COBOL and Fortran type stuff, but the basics of a lot of the bug classes are here to stay. So there's always going to be the staples, and I guess that's really if you can apply those staples, that's really what you want to know anyway. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
say with
same.
anything that has to do with the sort of concepts of computer science is huge. But another thing definitely I would look into is if you can ever have an opportunity to do anything with like cloud stuff. If you're interested in machine learning, that's a cool route to go down as well. But anything that will give you fundamentals that will last are definitely good, because a lot of people just don't get exposed to certain things, and it's sad because people don't, you'll learn a bunch about computer science. You might learn how to, like, I don't even know what they teach in computer science curriculum, to be honest with you, but you might learn certain things that are I guess aren't teaching you like system administration skills. It's the same sort of almost like life skills that you would wish you learned in high school are the same sort of things that it would be great to learn in college. So anything that can expose you to sort of anything to do with administering, employing, safety, security, those kind of things are all really valuable courses to try to go for.
I think the basics, I guess we can sort of break it right down to sort of like system administration, networking, and programming. It doesn't matter what language you really learn, because once you learn, 5 languages, you'll realize how how similar every language is, and that you can adapt those skills. Yeah, and you don't need to know every language in depth, because you sit there with a manual open, you're like, oh, what's the function for, I don't know, like rounding integers, and then you're like, oh yeah, round, like, or JavaScript math.round, like, just, it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. You know that there's a function that does it. You know that it's in a library somewhere. Just got to go find it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I guess also like the ideas behind things like privacy and security, like defense in depth, defense in layers. Like, these types of ideas are exactly the same as when they were published, pretty much, like, for the most part. So you can take, like, there's so many like ideas that don't apply to a specific technology. Like system administration applies to everything you're going to do in DevOps, for example,
Absolutely. I'm trying to grab a bunch of these links here. I think what we should do is make a playlist of all the videos that we really like, because I have a lot of playlists on YouTube, and it's hard to go through and pick really good.
I'm on my phone, so I can't really shout out. But one thing I would shout out is Barnaby's Jack's talk from a while back about ATM hacking.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
one
looking
really
for
stood
right
out to
now.
me.
That one.
And there was another one that I can't remember the title or even where it's from. I just remember it was with Hacks for Pancakes and Johnny Christmas. That was one of the first talks I ever seen, and it really, like, it's just been in my head like for the last like 8 years or however long it's been.
Yeah, there's another thing as well, is that a lot of really good talks I've seen have not been recorded. There was like a no user interaction iOS like airdrop a bug a bug chain, sorry, where the exploit basically was able to airdrop a new app onto the phone, replace the phone app, the springboard restarts, and then the phone app is now a malicious app. And the slides are out there for that, but the talk is not recorded. So there's like a lot of good talks out there that you can see a lot, but maybe attending certain conferences. I'm not going to say every conference, but attending certain conferences where you see a really good speaker lineup. Like once you start to recognize good speakers, maybe do a little bit of Google on them and like ignore Ponehead, and then like if you see a good speaker at a conference, then be like, oh, I really want to see that person speak, because that talk might never come out in any other way.
Shout out to Iron Geek for recording a fuck ton of the talks. If you go on his website,
So many,
yeah, it's like this guy goes to like every fucking conference and just records them all.
Yeah, it's actually insane. Like I've always wondered, like, what the fuck do you do with your time other than that?
Yeah. I was trying to help him do the AV at a con once, but I ended up getting double tasked. Like, this guy's got like tens of thousands of dollars of equipment. Like, he's got like everything you fucking imagine.
That's sick. Yeah, we
Super cool
definitely
dude
should
for
make
doing it.
a playlist of stuff too of talks we recommend. We'll tweet that out when we get it together. I definitely one of my favorite speakers for DEF CON Black Hat is Chris Domas, the one who basically just has been screwing x86 processors for a while now. He's done the breaking the x86 instruction set to fuzz it. He also did the God mode unlocked, the hardware backdoor on the x86 CPUs, as well as memory sinkhole and bunches of others of awesome talks. I also love any talk by Jason Scott.
He did IME as well, or is it someone else?
I forget if he did that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, any talk by him, any talk by Jason Scott, I love very much. And then my favorite DEF CON talk I think of all time was the My Life as a Spyware Developer. As far as it being a funny talk, here, I'll find that one real quick.
Oh, and shout out to Sammy Kamkar. His YouTube is fucking awesome.
Yeah, super charismatic guy, really cool.
Here, I'm gonna post that spyware one here. Yeah, this talk, just because of how straightforward. Absolutely perfect. But yeah, there's tons of awesome talks though. I mean, I honestly subscribe to the DEF CON channel and the Black Hat channel, and a couple other different ones that give out talks. Definitely just look through them. There's an unlimited amount of talks. I used to just watch them all the time in the background and just have them on. So there's so many good ones.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, there's a, I think her name was Natasha, and she hacks Tamagotchis, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of her work is based on this guy, Mr. Blinky, which she shouts out like it's there's a Tamagotchi hacking community actually, and you might think like, why the hell would I want to hack my Tamagotchi? But the technologies used behind it and the things that they do with them is very like some of them. These Tamagotchis, like they have NFC, they have infrared, they have the specific type of chip that runs in them. And while you might never encounter that specific chip, the way that they go about the tasks that they achieve is more important than the end goal. So like again, you might think like, who cares about Tamagotchis? You'll watch the talk and then you'll come across some other random thing. You'll be like, oh, I know how to approach this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Those talks, especially the hardware reverse engineering talks, amazing stuff. The Tamagotchi things especially are incredible. There's another one too that I found on my playlist called "Implementing the Tamagotchi Singularity," and that's that one's amazing. They literally like virtualized a bunch of Tamagotchis like from their firmware that they dumped, and they ended up like networking them all together so they could have like a community and like just be like sentient Tamagotchi like just ecosystem. Like incredible stuff. Like those kind of things, those same concepts apply to so many different other things, like whether it's virtualization, emulation, to just straight up like the woman who does Tamagotchi, I forget her name now too, like wrote shellcode for Tamagotchi by button presses, like stuff like that.
Right.
Just like like that's like fucking out of control. Like on a custom ASIC based on a 6502. That's insanity. So yeah, props to all those people. Definitely absorb that. Definitely watch weird stuff too, because there was a bunch of talks that I was like, I don't know what this is, but then I ended up watching it after like not watching it, for however long, and I suddenly watched it. I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking so cool. Like the one about the noise, exploring the noise floor was another really good one. I forget her name who did that too. I'll find that as well. But she was able to find that you could like, she was able to like from a really crappy like Chinese bootleg laptop, was able to see that there was like no EMF protection on it, and you could like read the screen from radio waves using like a RTL SDR, like stuff like that. Like you're like, what? Like how did you find this out? Or the people who did the SATCOM reverse engineering with the Iridium satellite and were able to like reverse engineer their protocol and like decode like sects that were like sent between like battleships. Good shit.
Yeah, I think the CRT or the monitor decoding with emissions like using a radio is that dates back a long way. I think maybe to the late 80s or early 90s. I honestly couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But an interesting thing as well, like say you wanted to learn about blockchain and blockchain security, like yeah, buzzword, whatever. But an interesting thing to look at is like what is it, ERC 721, which is crypto kitties. Like you might not give a shit about crypto kitties and you might think it's the dumbest idea in the world. But what was interesting about it was the application was not the same as everything else. So you can go read about it, look at it, and then and again that will give you when you're doing if you come across some sort of Ethereum like solidarity contract auditing or something like that, you'll be like, oh, I know about this, and that definitely helps.
Hell yeah.
Solidity. Did I say solidarity? Solidity contracts. My bad.
The next question that we have here is thoughts on Ghidra. So actually, we asked this to Hackster Pancakes, which we should say that Hackster Pancakes, we have a recording of her that we will be putting out soon as a regular episode. So we'll be able to listen in on it, and maybe she might be able to even chat with us as well in the stream chat. But the Ghidra stuff, she said, if it's public now from the NSA, it's already been well used. So
Oh yeah.
it's probably, if it's something that the NSA developed, it's probably pretty good. I mean, they have developed a lot of awesome stuff in the past, although it was not in our reach. So I'm interested to see. I didn't know, it hasn't been released yet, has it?
No, come March, I believe, at RSA.
Saving it for like RSA or Black Hat or something.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out because I mean they probably have a lot of stuff that's like custom built that supports unlimited architectures. And,
Yeah, something insane.
Yeah,
I think.
But I mean,
I was going to say one thing to remember is a lot of these things that you see about in the news and stuff, before they're even used, you've got guys that are super smart that are getting paid to not talk about it and work on it for a long time. And their goals, and they might not even know the goal of their software because offset compartmentalization, all the things that happen that are they're not really industry things either. So like those departments and industry are quite separate, but they do cross over, I guess, because we're all on the internet. And again, like once the industry sees something from that, they don't always the industry's perspective or even the hacker community's perspective is not always the same as where these things come from. So it's very easy to bandwagon as well when you hear about something like that, but keep an open mind and try like knowing your adversary is something that we talk about a little bit, that we spoke about a little bit earlier. And again, their adversaries are not our adversaries, and they're not the adversaries of their adversaries. If you get me, it's a different world. So yeah,
absolutely. I think what's just so strange about this is that they're releasing it. Like it's the NSA. Like what are they doing? They're not supposed to do this.
Right. But if they are, why? And I mean, we might not know. So
yeah, like I'm thinking maybe there's a leak or something, but I'm not. I don't know. Who knows? It's the NSA.
Anything we could say, anything we would think might. It's all speculation because none of us know.
Exactly. But regardless, it is going to be really interesting to see what comes out of it, because if it is like game changing, it'll be great for reverse engineering.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, Paging Broke Chic, if you're still there. What's up? Where you at? We have 5 minutes left. But yeah, what's I gonna say? Hey, we got time for like one more question or so if anybody has anything. But it's been cool though. I'm glad that we were able to just kind of chill for today because a lot of our people are involved in a bunch of different things and it's a lot to keep up with the podcast. And we've been doing this for a while now. It's almost a year since our first podcast. Next week will have been the year since we started the very first iteration of this before ThugCrowd. Pretty cool. I'm glad everybody's here to chat and chill.
Yeah, I mean, it's I never really expected this. Like, I was talking to Crazed, I don't know, before, and recently, and he was basically saying like, because he's had his own things to go off and do, and he's just like, whoa, like when I came back on, you guys weren't just talking crap. You're like making a thing. You're like, are we? I guess it's a
I
thing.
guess so.
ThugCrowd became a thing.
It did become a thing. Pretty cool. Definitely super happy that all these people here are also supporting us. Which let me grab. We had a bunch of new patrons. I forgot to grab the entire list, but we have quite a few. We have 27 patrons. This is amazing, actually. This is pretty sweet. Yeah, so anybody who does want to get that CLSSP, you totally can if you go to patreon.com/ThugCrowd. That is where you can give us $10 for 1 month and get a CLSSP cert. Why is my internet just not working now? This is cool. Oh yeah, that Drupal bug.
Yeah, nice. New Drupal bug. Thank you.
Can you please send my CLSSP to one hacker away, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, Palo Alto, California?
I'll send one to Zuck.
Send one to one Infinity Loop. Like, just make sure everybody who doesn't need one gets one.
So do you write the name on CLSSP? So if you are on Patreon, you send us your address and your handle that you want on it. That's how we customize it. So we're able to coordinate with everybody for what they want to be called.
I suppose you could get your real name on it if you want, but
if you want to be secure, make sure to use ROT26 encryption and tweet it at ThugCrowd.
ROT26. Where is this? Hold on one second. Jesus, there's so many weird things. Okay, so yeah, our patrons. We'll shout them out real quick. We got Woodsman on here. Thanks. DVD Freytag. 688. Hold on, what is his name on here? Because it has 688 AS or attack sub. Dusty Fresh, Dilesh, Gabe, Hamburger Keyboard. Thanks, dude. Ire, James, Matt. Yes, Mayor. No Cookies. Thanks so much, dude. Rain. Rob Poners, Rufflewitz, Shuzi, Sterling Archer, Talon, Walski, Who, ZLZ, and we had a couple of other ones, but they haven't come through all the way through yet. So thanks to everybody though who is a new patron. At the end of the month, we will get everything squared away so we can mail them out to the new people. So thanks, y'all. And Dash, I will send you. I'll talk to you after.
Yeah, thanks to all our Twitter followers, subscribers, followers, all that. People shouting bits, parody with the bits.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
I figured out how to finally take money out of this as well, so I was able to put it towards our server costs. I didn't know. I feel like an old man on the internet here. Not an old man, just a technically illiterate person. I'm not going to be ableist or ageist here, but I definitely feel like I'm like when I'm trying to search through always like Twitch, I'm like I have no clue. Figure out. I'm like, because the thing is, I'm just like, am I gonna do the wrong thing and just suddenly like I don't know, start streaming my address or something?
Yeah, that's what I was worried about too.
Which sorry for everybody too. Yesterday for the false alarm when we went live, I was testing out a new service and suddenly it just went live for 10 minutes while I was like struggling with my internet to like edit the edit stuff. So it was just me painfully slowly resizing icons for 10 minutes. So good stuff. Oh yeah. So yeah, I guess that's just about does it. Does anybody have any last words?
Since Dan's not here, I'll say shut the fuck up and get a lawyer for him.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Only I
Night
can-
night.
All right, yeah. I guess we'll just go now. So we'll see you next week. We'll be updating our full schedule soon too. So just keep a lookout for that. Keep a lookout for our playlist. Thanks everybody for hanging out and asking questions, and I love you. See ya.
Thanks.
Back to
Bye.
planet.
Back to planet.